Cyberpunk.
Isn't it amazing how just one word can evoke 1,000 emotions, at least 700 of which are varieties of "we need this game now"? CD Projekt Red's next massive title, Cyberpunk 2077, has been hotly anticipated since 2013, promising an impossibly cool shooter RPG experience set in a neon-drenched dystopian future filled with cybernetic crime syndicates, warring corporations, and rabble-rousing rock stars. By now, everyone probably knows the game is inspired by Cyberpunk 2020, the tabletop pen-and-paper RPG released in 1988 during the height of the cyberpunk fiction genre. This extensive source material means there are plenty of details to get stuck into about the lore, characters, and setting we're likely to see come September, which we'll focus on here. We'll also try to sprinkle in some bits we do know about the upcoming 2077 game, but since it's, not out yet, forgive us if some details change last minute. Okay. Anyway, enough idle chit-chat. We've got a city to burn, or learn. We've got a city to learn. It's not quite as cool. I'm Ben from Triple Jump, and here are 10 things you didn't know about Cyberpunk so far. Number 10. Cyberpunk's pen and paper origins. Cyberpunk 2020 might be the most well-known version of this franchise's tabletop RPGs, but the first edition was actually set in the far-flung future of 2013, truly a dark and hopeless time. Simply called Cyberpunk, it was designed by Mike Pondsmith and released in 1988, inspired heavily by works from sci-fi authors like William Gibson and Walter John Williams, the latter of whom helped playtest the game himself. Mike set up R. Talsorian Games to publish the title, and in a time when tabletop RPGs were basically D&D derivatives filled with swords, sorcery, and varying shades of elf, Cyberpunk stood out as a gritty, futuristic, and dare we say it, even cool alternative. I mean, the rules in the 2020 handbook are quite clear. Number 1, style of substance. Number 2, attitude is everything. Number 3, always take it to the edge. And technically the 4th rule is break the rules, making the others seem redundant, but that's okay because it's
Cyberpunk.
The world of corrupt corporate shills, rebellious rockers, and netrunners living entire realities on the net. Other entries in the Cyberpunk pantheon include 1993's Cyber Generation, an alternative take on 2020 where a nanotech virus gives teenagers superhuman skills, Cyberpunk 2030, or 23X if you want to get serious about this, an official 3rd edition published in 2005, and finally Cyberpunk Red, the newest installment released in 2019, but set in 2045, helping bridge the timeline of the tabletop and the upcoming video game. Number 9. Good Morning Night City. Snugly nestled between Los Angeles and San Francisco, the urban sprawl of Night City won the illustrious title of the worst place to live in America as of 2077. But it wasn't always like this. Originally dubbed Coronado Bay, the city was the brainchild of Richard Knight, a businessman who left his construction firm in 1990 and secured funding to create a safe and clean corporate utopia. It was completed in 1994, but Richard Knight's own construction techniques was at the expense of established unions, which upset some rather nasty crime syndicates. Thus, in 1998, he came down with a nasty case of murdered in the face, and while the killer, or killers, were never caught, the city was renamed Night City in his honor, which makes up for being killed, right? By 2077, the city is anything but safe and clean, split into 6 major districts, each with their own dangers. There's the neon-glazed corporate heart of the city centre, Watson, a blend of Asian cultures filled with exotic bazaars, Westbrook, a tourist trap for the wealthy, Haywood, an affluent suburban neighbourhood with underlying gang problems, Pacifica, a dangerous, downtrodden shantytown isolated from other districts, and Santo Domingo, the industrial zone that powers all the chaos. Threats lurk in every alley of this densely packed, vertically expansive city, but that won't stop us from hopping on the open-top tour bus. Number 8. The history of the cyberpunk world. Night City is one thing, but how did the wider world get this bad in the first place? The timeline of Cyberpunk starts to diverge properly around 1990 as the US intervened in a Central American war, inciting the wrath of drug cartels. With the help of a powerful alternate timeline European Union, these cartels then detonated a small nuclear device in New York City in 1993, leading to around 15,000 civilian casualties. In 1994, a global stock market crash crippled the US government further, a drought in the Midwest created a food crisis which led to corporations controlling most of US agriculture, and to top it off, in 1996, the president and vice president were assassinated, fracturing the US government and leaving a power vacuum that was quickly filled by criminal gangs and corporate entities. In the following years, natural disasters ravaged the planet further, nuclear war in the Middle East wiped out half the world's oil supply, and several states seceded from the US government. It's all a bit of a mess, frankly. Megacorporations rose up from this rubble, causing further division between the wealthy elite and the millions of jobless, homeless lower classes. These #big businesses get so powerful they end up clashing not just in the boardroom, but the battlefield, hiring private militaries from other #big businesses to wage a series of corporate wars. Speaking of which, number 7. The fourth corporate war literally broke the internet. No, we don't mean one of the megacorps shared a picture of their ridiculous posterior. We mean they literally broke the internet, aka cyberspace, or the net. The fourth corporate war started like any other. In 2021, one firm specializing in underwater shipping went bankrupt, and two rival aquacorps competed in a very hostile takeover. They argued, exchanged some mean words, and then hired private armies from Arasaka and Militech to blast 7 shades of cybernetic implants out of each other. In 2025, a miniature nuke was detonated at the Arasaka Tower, causing huge property damage and inflicting major data corruption, which blew the net apart. At least this was according to the 3rd edition, published in 2005. Details have changed slightly, but the latest iteration, Cyberpunk Red, sticks to this end-of-war catastrophe angle, and the aftermath is dubbed the Time of the Red. People were protected from nuclear fallout through commonplace radiation filters, but the net was shattered, severing the global connection into smaller micronets or data pools, meaning users must physically jack in to access any local networks. Speaking to GameSpot in 2018, Pondsmith said that they wanted to explore what happened when the fundamentals of a technological society get seriously messed up, in his words. On top of this, CD Projekt Red's Quest designer Mateusz Tomaszkiewicz confirmed another catastrophic event before 2077, where a Netrunner released malware and rogue AIs into cyberspace. This corruption was combated with a new security force called Netwatch, who created a digital cordon called the Black Wall. It's weird, it's dangerous, and it makes DeviantArt look almost safe by comparison. Number 6. Cyberpunk 2077 will be forward compatible. That's right, forget backwards compatibility, this is the future. As we're on the cusp of a new console generation, CD Projekt Red stated in a tweet in February that gamers should never be forced to purchase the same game twice, or pay for upgrades. They confirmed that owners of the game on Xbox One will receive the upgraded version on the upcoming Xbox Series X for free when it releases for the new system. This fits with Microsoft's recent stance on compatibility across all platforms in the next gen with their new Smart Delivery feature, which, despite sounding like a missile guidance system designed by Amazon, makes the same promise of buy once, play on any platform. It's safe to assume the PlayStation 5 will offer the same after recent confirmation that it will also be backwards compatible with PS4 games, and hopefully that will extend to a flashier, next-gen optimized version of Cyberpunk being offered once it's available. It's typically on brand for CD Projekt Red, who hid an interview transcript in their E3 2018 trailer that included a question about microtransactions, the response being, "In a single-player role-playing game? Are you nuts?" Let's just not mention the multiplayer part of the game as far as microtransactions are concerned. The internet got mad enough about that as it is. Number 5. Mike Pondsmith has worked in game development before. Video game adaptations from other mediums are often met with wariness, trepidation, and mob members eagerly sharpening their pitchforks, so it's nice to know a creator of a popular cult franchise not only gets the industry, but has actively worked on it in the case of Mr. Cyberpunk, Mike Pondsmith. Growing up in a wargaming-friendly environment, Mike had designed games from an early age, but started out as a graphic designer, redesigning Japanese game box arts for a Western audience. But when he decided to rewrite a custom rule set for sci-fi pen and paper RPG Traveller, he realized he could actually do this professionally. In 1984, he designed his first game called Mechton, an RPG inspired heavily by the Mobile Suit Gundam manga, and 1 year later formed R. Talsorian Games. After the booming success of the 80s and early 90s, the pen and paper RPG market was stagnating, so in 1998 Mike put his company on hiatus and returned to the video game industry, joining Microsoft in the year 2000 as a design manager for Xbox titles. He contributed towards 2001's Mech Commander 2 and even voiced a character called Steel. Mike was also credited in 2001's Bloodwake and 2003's Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge, before joining Monolith Productions and helping with mission design for The Matrix Online. You know, based on that film with a certain breathtaking Mr. Keanu. Honestly, it's like the guy was destined to play a digital rock star in a dystopian future. Number 4. The origins of the cyberpunk genre. The term cyberpunk was first officially coined by author Bruce Bethke, who had written a short story titled Cyberpunk in 1983, but this origin story is a bit more nuanced than that. It's been aptly described as a combination of low life and high tech by Bruce Sterling, another notable Bruce in the business. It was born from the new wave of science fiction in the 60s and 70s, with experimental new sci-fi authors like Philip K. Dick, Harlan Ellison, and Roger Zelazny featuring more in popular magazine New Worlds. Naturally, 1982's Blade Runner, the adaptation of Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, was a major forerunner for cyberpunk, but arguably the biggest influence on the cyberpunk subgenre was William Gibson, who 1 year before Blade Runner released the short novel Johnny Mnemonic about a data trafficker with cybernetic surgical enhancements. Starting to sound familiar, right? The film adaptation even featured a familiarly breathtaking Mr. Reeves in the central role. Seriously. Destiny. William Gibson then released Neuromancer in 1984, setting the golden standards for anything cybery and punky. Going back to Bruce Bethke, the man who coined the C-word and not that one, he also dubbed the authors of this wave Neuromantics, a criminally underrated pun on the music and fashion movement of the time. Now that's quite the legacy. Number 3. Cyberpunk's multiplayer will be a standalone release in 2022. Enough of all that boring book talk for book nerds! Let's talk multiplayer. That's what literally everyone wants in Cyberpunk, right? Kill streaks and unlockable gun skins. Yeah? Literally anyone? A multiplayer version of Cyberpunk has been mentioned as far back as 2013 and was officially confirmed last year, but the subject has been one of the few sticking points for fans of this hugely anticipated title. Fear not, though, as CD Projekt Red are treating this multiplayer component as a standalone AAA release, being developed in parallel with the main Cyberpunk title. It's just that this AAA release won't be released for a while, okay? In an investor Q&A call, the heads at CD Projekt responded to the question of multiplayer with, given the series of events which we expect to occur after the September release, 2021 appears unlikely as a release date for the Cyberpunk multiplayer. They've been adamant that this multiplayer will appear only after several free updates and paid DLC expansions for the single player, and considering that they're likely in different stages of development, we can rest easy knowing it's probably not distracting any of the over 400 people understood to be working full-time on Cyberpunk. Number 2. Class Warfare. Even when there's anarchy everywhere, we've still got to pick a class. We're not savages after all. The Cyberpunk 2020 handbook detailed 9 classes, or roles, and while only 3 of these are confirmed as core options in 2077, that being the Techie, Solo, and Netrunner, the fluid class system and upgrades look like they'll draw inspiration from the other roles in the lore. Netrunners are classic Cyberpunk, using neural implants and hacking skills for a smarter, stealthier approach. Whether it's literally stealing someone's thoughts or just bagging free soda for life, doesn't matter, they'll hack it. Pondsmith even likened them to a digital Indiana Jones as they traverse the dangers of the broken net in search of priceless information. Techies are your typical crafters and fixer-uppers, described in the 2020 handbook as renegade mechanics and doctors, which are basically the same thing considering how Night City residents have more metal in them than your average Bloodstock attendee. Solos are the mercenaries, the muscle, the shoot first, shoot second, keep shooting and then maybe ask a question later when you run out of bullets type. After all, why bother hacking a turret when you can wrench it from its hinges and wield it like an LMG? Judging from the gameplay demos, your character background contains nods to other tabletop roles, choosing from a highway roaming nomad, a ruthless yuppie corporate, or a street kid, something akin to the fixer class. And then there's your rocker boys, or rocker girls, the polar opposite of a lame bard. Super cool, charismatic, fighting the man through sizzling guitar riffs and grungy synth beats. And nobody exemplifies that better than number 1. The Legend of Johnny Silverhand. This cybernetically enhanced shredder was an important figure in the world of cyberpunk long before the infamous taker of breaths Keanu Reeves appeared on that E3 stage. The original Silverhand was a bit less John Wick and a bit more John Bon Jovi, as some of these classic 80s hair metal designs would suggest. Pondsmith's original inspiration for Johnny back in the 80s was David Bowie, as his distanced vibe epitomized the rocker boy style. Johnny is the lead singer and guitarist of the band Samurai, whose hits include Chippin' In and Never Fade Away, but before all that, he served in the military fighting in the Central American Wars before deserting. This influenced his music, his message, and his rebellious nature, holding grudges against the Arasaka Corporation, blaming them for the loss of his arm and the death of his friends and family. During the Fourth Corporate War, he teamed up with Morgan Blackhand, an infamous solo mercenary and, incidentally, Mike Pondsmith's own personal player character, to assault Arasaka HQ. This all went wrong for Johnny, however, who was allegedly killed by a nasty mercenary called Adam Smasher. This, along with the obvious time gap, has led many to believe 2077's Johnny is basically a digital ghost, appearing only to the player character who was themselves a huge Johnny Silverhand fan. How exactly this is possible isn't confirmed yet, but here's a bit of potentially spoilerific speculation. His ex-girlfriend, Alt Cunningham, was an expert netrunner who invented a program called Soul Killer, which can create a digital copy of a person's mind. Whether this is the reason that Johnny can continue chipping in, we'll find out for certain come September. And there we are, a bit wiser to this chaotic world of neon and net running, but we're sure more details will emerge closer to Cyberpunk 2077's release on the 17th of September. If you've got any other interesting facts about the lore or the game itself, let us know in the comments below. You can follow myself and Triple Jump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from Triple Jump, and thanks for watching.